Hello. Okay, my sinuses are going a little extra crazy today. I'll try to get through this without too many problems. We're probably looking at a pretty long video. I've decided I'll do more or less hose and probably shoes again in a separate video. I had planned to do a separate video for general audiences about shoes anyway. Excuse me. So that will be, I won't be talking about kilt shoes in that obviously, but it'll be kind of, more in depth, hopefully, advice than I'm going to do here. The obviously I was going to do this video sooner, and then I bumped up the other one because I wanted to wait for the big reveal. I'm not going to go on about that too much because I'm going to leave Sporrans till later in the video. So if you only came here to see my Sporran reaction video, somewhere down the line. In the meantime, it started off, well, I guess, going more or less in price low to high order. So, initially I had talked about things like trying to match inexpensive kilt pins, and I just deliberately brought this harp one because my first actual Sporran, which was only like 20 bucks, I think, was this harp. And so I was trying to match more of that. And very, inexpensive tassels, the very pebble grain, small, not a lot of storage space, but not overly dramatic, not a flamboyant Sporran at all. And I thought that was fine, except then I realized quickly that I had more Scottish themed tartans, so I didn't necessarily want an Irish emblem on the Scottish tartans. And instead of just buying, a second one of this and just removing the decal or whatever, I couldn't seem to find the one that correctly matched. I think I was trying to find, it's a little awkward, but I think I was trying to find the one that was more closely to the British Army one with the thistle. And much later, I found a much more expensive version. This one's got the fur, but it does have the thistle. The tassels are, more elaborate with the metal, with the chain. They swing more, they make more noise, but a lot more storage space. And anyway, I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to do Sporrans first. I'm only showing that these two on purpose. Like I said, I was talking about the themes of the motifs that you have. So if you didn't watch my previous budget accessories video, I'm trying to bring you up to speed a little bit, even though you might already have a pretty good idea about what premium is versus budget, and you might have already bought these kind of items in the past. Excuse me. And so, but so, like I said, typically on the Sporran, there's some kind of thing, or the belt buckle, there's some kind of thing. And so I was trying to kind of unite the clan, no, unite the motifs, and that sends you down rabbit holes after rabbit holes. But it was a lot easier to find, I think, in some cases, shamrocks than harps, and in a lot of cases, thistles, not certain stags. But overall, I liked the stag motif, I think, the most. But you couldn't always find everything that would go with it because they have different poses and you can only find one hat badge, but that's technically a Gordon Highlanders military badge. So I'm not in the military and I'm not part of the Gordon clan, so I didn't really have occasion to want to get that one, and so even though I'm not typically wearing a Balmoral hat that would take a cap badge, it was almost impossible to find the correct cap badge that would go with basically anything. At some point, where is it? I think I had bought this buckle off Amazon, and it's a pewter instead of a stamped metal. And so I had found I didn't like it as much because I got a different buckle. I wanted more of the harp to be the focus instead of the kind of the circle thing. But that was one of the few where I could get a matching cap badge and a matching pin, even though you can't really see the design on the pin so much from a distance. So I ended up keeping it, even though I haven't used it eventually. Because again, most of the time I ended up just wearing the cheap stuff if I'm just walking around the neighborhood or whatever. And so quickly it escalates. But if you had bought one of the packages from USA Kilts, as I did later, then you fill in some of the accessories and you end up with extra accessories you don't need. Like I already had a bunch of belts and I got another belt. Like I was saying before, there's kind of a disparity between like cheap stuff and really expensive stuff for a reasonable amount of it. Where you don't find much disparity at all is the belts. Like I have other belts that I don't know if they're better quality, but they're like, thicker and more durable, and I got them for the same price or maybe less. So I haven't noticed. I'm sure there's some artisans out there who are, handcrafting some beautifully tooled, kilt belts and stuff that'll have, like I said, more than this kind of embossed texture that comes on most of the adorned ones. But for the most part, I haven't seen a lot of like, all the belts are around $40, 30, $40. Maybe they've gone up a little bit since then. I haven't had to buy any in several years because I bought a whole bunch, like I said, when I first started, just to kind of, oh, this one can go. Again, I kind of go more with the dedicated outfit principle than the just get one sporran that goes with all of them, because like I said, the decorations make it very hard for one sporran to just go with all of them if you're doing not just your family tartan kind of thing. So then when I started getting the package, like I said, I get an extra belt, I get another buckle that matches absolutely none of my other buckles, or none of my kilt pins at all. I just, okay, fine, whatever, it can go on. It looks kind of good with this belt, so whatever. Excuse me, when I'm just walking around and I don't care how it looks, then fine, and stuff like that. If I met somebody who was like, oh, I have a kilt but I don't have a belt, okay, well, got one in the car, see how it goes. But so the USA kilts, like, they had the shamrock pin, which looks better than the other one I think I showed in the last video, unless I forgot, I don't remember. But then the shamrock hat badge is in a little bit easier to identify the shamrock maybe than the harp. Like I said, I think more people will know what a shamrock is than a thistle. But but then they didn't have any similar belt buckle, so I still ended up having to go with the stamped cheap buckle from Amazon or wherever I got this. And so it's like, okay, even the guys who sell the higher quality stuff don't always have the thing that I need. And again, I didn't even want the chrome look for most of my stuff. I was trying to go more with the rustic brass colored stuff, and still ended up with chrome. So that can be frustrating. And then same thing with this. Wrong one. Then later they introduced these even nicer ones, also in chrome. So I bought this, but it doesn't quite match the previous harp too well. I guess you can get away with it. Um, and so, I'm probably more likely to wear this one than this one. I was upside down, sorry. Because I just like the design a lot better, even though it doesn't quite match the accessories as much. So now I'm back to, oh, should I have sent back that other one, 4 years ago or whatever when I got it? I don't know. Same thing happened with like, I guess I brought out the wrong one. But yeah, I bought this stag one because, again, I was trying to do the stag motif more than like the thistle motif. But again, chrome, then they turn around and come out with the closer to my personality bronze kind of thing. And again, I still don't end up wearing belt buckles very much because if I'm wearing a nice vest, I'm not wearing a belt. So I have a whole bunch of money sunk into accessories that I don't get to use as often as I would like. And that's, I don't know, one of the problems with, again, buying the more premium stuff instead of the cheap stuff, because you don't feel as guilty throwing cheap stuff in a drawer. But then again, sometimes you feel guilty wearing just cheap stuff, or at least maybe you should. And so that's kind of a brief survey of their kind of end line of product. I had tried to not, like I said, not really trying to do an advertisement for any one company or something, but like I said, if you're not just going to shop for the stuff on Amazon, this is kind of the next price range. And I had tried to, I called one time and I said, look, I think I've bought almost all the stuff that would go in a kilt package. Can I retrofit a kilt package and, just add these items that I still kind of need and get kind of the discount? And they were like, no, like you have to buy them separate or start from scratch. And I was like, okay, that was kind of annoying because like I felt like I had, gotten 3/4 of the way there and I was willing to get all the way there if they would, help me a little bit on the price. Later they kind of made up for it with a couple of things. Like I had one sporran that I already had and I wanted to do a substitution, and at first they were like, don't does not compute, and then as I explained the situation, they kind of said, oh, okay, it does compute, we'll take off $40 or whatever. The problem with the package I found though is, like, if you're buying the clothing, I don't have to pay a state sales tax, but if I add leather goods and buckles and stuff, it adds sales tax. So instead of adding sales tax to the particular item, even though I'm getting it at a discount, it adds it to the whole package, which makes the tax higher, I think. And so I haven't quite crunched the numbers to see if I'm better off buying the stuff itemized after all, or if I'm still better off with the package with the discount. Because again, I live in California where everything is taxed 3 times higher than what you think is realistic for any living person to actually pay. And that can also vary county to county. One specific county being slightly worse than all or the most of the rest. Not to name any names, Los Angeles, but I'm not sure if they're worse or better than San Francisco County. But yeah, pretty bad. Overall, when you call East Coast companies, and not just kilt companies, but other East Coast companies, and they do the math and give you your total and go, that much for tax? And you say, yeah. And I could fill my tank of gas for less than that. And you go, oh, well, don't even start on that. That's a whole separate. Anyway. So if you can afford a tank of gas, you can afford premium belt buckles and it won't bother you as much, I guess. But another thing to tie in with back to the leather thing, like this one has a decent design, but it's not a thick belt. And this was the brown, tying into the brown thing, that they try to get to match the shoes, but doesn't really quite match the shoes. So again, that's a whole kind of separate thing. that I'm only gonna, like I said, I only want to touch on briefly here for a minute. I guess I'll have to pause and start again. Okay, sorry for that awkwardness. Before I jump into the next segment, actually, I did have these things in here. They were just covered by the other thing. So there's the cheap shamrock, and here's the bronze harp, which again, you can find the bronze harp and maybe even the bronze buckle, but then the emblem on the sporran will never be bronze. It will almost always be chrome. So that will drive you slightly insane if you're worried about it. The other thing I didn't mention in the previous video at all was this skin do. This one literally says letter opener on the box. I don't know if that's just to help you get through customs when you throw it in your luggage instead of in your sock. I think I got this on Amazon. I don't remember. I don't think I paid very much for it. I tried to look for different. This one just has the thistle on it. I guess I can show. I mean, I didn't take it out of the box because why? You have to be careful. There was one that looked really nice, and it was. I think this one was like $18 if memory serves. I think there was another one that was like $40 or $50 maybe, and it had kind of a Damascus blade, and it looked kind of cool. But they didn't have the specifications listed, so be careful that you're not actually ordering the dirk that killed Macbeth. You can't take this on a plane. I don't know if you can take it to a wedding. I've seen some guys where they'll just wear their regular fixed blade pocket knife on their belt or something instead. I literally have never worn one of these in my sock. I think that sounds fairly uncomfortable, and I would save that for a more formal occasion. To walk around all day with a useless knife that you're never going to use there. It's easier, like I said, I think just to put a small pocket knife in your sporran and be done with it. Like I said, the guys who like they're not a Bowie knife, but a hunting knife or a K-bar kind of thing. I think that's more just for them to kind of show off than to, really have any connection to heritage or whatever. Right? I don't know. Different guys go for different looks, and it's not always 100% authentic Victorian or whatever. So some guys just feel naked without their pocket knife or their belt knife or whatever. The okay, so I guess that brings me awkwardly to shoes, which I guess should bring me to hose first. Again, sorry for the awkwardness. There's just literally not enough room in this room right now to put everything that I would need to do a complete show and tell. So the cheapest ones you're going to find that should have been in the previous video probably is, I think these are like the $10 model or maybe the $15 model. And they come in white and black, and I only brought the white ones because they still had the pretty thing on them, because maybe I'll wear them, maybe I won't. One of the reasons I don't mind having the white ones is because if I want to wear the white sweater, I think the white goes okay with the sweater. Otherwise, almost everybody universally decries the white ones now as being, hokey or whatever, according to some reputable authorities. But I think white's okay though too, or cream if you want to call it such, because it's neutral. And unless you're worried about it getting like super dirty and you don't want to spend a lot of money on your hose, fine, whatever. I actually have a pair of gray athletic socks that I wear more often because they were $6 instead of 10 or 12 kind of thing. The next bump up from that, or somewhere in the next range, which is, like I said, I'll have to do a more elaborate video later, but you have the Piper hose that have the texture, and it has much more of a cuff. Obviously, there's a lot more. They're longer, so there's a lot more to be folded down, and I don't. I didn't have trouble finding these in the smaller shoe size. A lot of them, the heel will kind of ride up the back of your leg if you buy, the medium, but you need a small, and almost nobody carries small. But even on the small, I think once they stretch a little bit, the heel still goes up the back of the leg. So there's not really much getting around that. And then the next step up from that, of course, is there's a couple different kind of colors and a couple different kind of, like this one, for example, has a little bit of ribbing at the top and then this kind of long fold down area. So some people want you to fold them down and then fold them back up to get like more of this stuff kind of showing, and then your flashes are somewhere down in here. I worry that that will stretch out the elastic a lot, what little there might be, and then you are reliant on your flashes to hold up your hose. So if you're the kind of guy who thinks flashes are stupid and doesn't want to wear them, but you still want to turn your socks in some elaborate way, you might find your socks falling down by the end of the day. And I don't know if shoelaces would make very comfortable garter ties. That might be not the way to go. I don't know. But if you're in an emergency fix, this one has a little bit more of an elaborate kind of ribbing, so I can fold this just from the top and still show more design than something again where I have to fold it and then refold it and all that kind of tricky thing. And I think these are about $30. I don't know how. I haven't had any real issue with kind of wearing through, but these are thinner than some of the cheap budgeter ones, more budget ones. Sorry, I've gotten. So maybe they get a hole sooner. I guess if you're really worried about getting a hole in your hose, because you bought even more expensive ones than this and like the hundred and something dollar range. Maybe wear a pair of ankle cotton socks underneath, and you won't have to worry about your toenails poking through or something. But you'll still get rubbing on the inside of the shoe. So your results may vary. I don't have an issue with most of the less expensive ones putting them in the wash. In the delicate, hasn't seemed to do anything. It makes them a little bit fuzzy, but it hasn't. They discontinued the thick cable matching this kind of thing a couple of years ago already. So I don't know where to get those. I don't know where to get the nice knitted Argyle ones, that kind of thing, off the bat. And I imagine they're all pretty expensive. Like I said, I'll talk about that more in a later video. In this case, I think basically if you're buying the nicer hose, you're somewhere in the $30 to $50 range without going overboard. I know this is called the premium video, but again, I don't have a ton of pairs of premium socks to talk about, so you'll know where to find them or you won't. If you have a grandma who knits, you're in better shape than I am. So that brings us to the shoes, and then the finally the Sporrans. Okay, so to launch right in, I showed the black shoes in the previous video because, like I said, they are, I think, a cheaper leather and a less quality construction. Or they offer, speaking strictly of USA Kilts again right now, they offer 3 models that I know of. And so the upgrade of the black ones is the Piper ones, which obviously I don't own. And then they offered the brown ones, which I got with the package. And I thought, okay, well, like I said, first of all, they don't match the color of the belt exactly, but it's not terrible. It's pretty close. I wish they had put a little bit of black or something into the belt to help it match the broguing. The Again, though, if I'm wearing this, I'm probably wearing a tweed vest, so I'm just leaving this at home anyway, half the time or most of the time. Not that I've worn these, obviously, yet to still have the tag on them, but intended purpose. I might have the belt in the car if I, get warm later and want to take off the vest. But for the most part, if I'm wearing a shoe this fancy, I'm trying to look fancy, blaming me. And also black laces instead of brown. So again, no black and black heel, no black in the belt. So Could be a little closer match, but not, like I said, the color itself is not terrible. I do not care though for this metal heel doohickey. I guess this is for the Pipers more. That's why I'm questioning how much this resembles the Piper version, where they want this clackety clack, I guess. To me, this is just going to damage a hardwood floor. This is just going to damage a rug. This one screw is not even set in correctly, so it juts out. So this will literally gouge anything I try to do. I don't know if I can, within reason, go to a cobbler and have them replace the entire heel. Maybe he could kind of saw off the rubber part, because I think this part under here is leather, or an approximated leather, and the actual rubber might not even be that much. Pretty sure this is rubber. So yeah, it looks like if you just wanted to peel off this like quarter of an inch bit of rubber and have them resole that, you could maybe do that, but that would be a lot more than I want to spend on a pair of new shoes. So, kind of annoying, but if I didn't want to wear these, because okay, they offered a couple different sizes, but then they only had this size in stock. So these ones are a little bit bigger than the black ones that I have, which are a little tight, but I'm not sliding around in them. So I was worried that I might be sliding around in these. And like I said, the nicer hose are actually less thick than some of the cheaper hose I have. So again, I might have to wear a second sock. All these kind of, another thing that, am I going to want to wear this all day at a festival? At the end of the day, maybe not. I might save this for, some other kind of casual occasions. But the good news is they're not too far in color from the Johnson and Murphy shoes. Now, I had bought Johnson and Murphy shoes because they were. I'll go into this more detail in the shoe video one of these days. They were like one of the few brands for less than a couple $100 that were in my size, basically. And so at the time, I wasn't worried about Kilt Sporrans and matching colors and things. I just wanted some decent shoes. And the first thing that happens after you buy them is you go on Gentleman's Gazette and he says, "Don't buy J&M shoes. If you can buy it at the mall, it's probably crap. Only buy $300 shoes." Okay, well, I can get 2 pairs of these for 1 pair of those, and I don't see Raphael buying me any shoes. So I still have these, but I could wear this, I think, pretty easily with the Kilt and their matching Sporran, and nobody would know this wasn't, Scottish footwear. And then their dark brown. This is the dark brown that. This is the supposedly the same tan as this. Their dark brown isn't super dark. Where I throw the Sporrans. Oh. Not as far as you thought. Okay. Does the dark brown really match the brown of the Sporran? Not quite. I haven't found any shoes that quite. I think that's reasonable. You can see it's a little bit lighter and redder. I haven't found any shoes that quite match the brown of the cheaper Sporrans. And then I went over to, I found some on sale of Loake, which is one of those brands that's closer to that 300 range, much nicer leather, a little bit, I don't know if it's more elaborate or better broguing per se. I think the broguing looks pretty similar to the J&M actually, but kind of a pebbled look. But the color even more kind of a tannish, yellowish kind of ish. So not quite the exact color as the Sporran. And I'll have to hold it up again later when I get the Sporrans out. Otherwise, I'll just be making a mess here. And then what they call mahogany, though, is definitely a different color than the Kilt, but a little closer maybe to the belt color. which I threw the belt over there, so hang on. I know I could cut and pause these things, but I don't because it doesn't take that much longer to do it that way. So yeah, a little bit lighter, but then this color, like I said, without the augmentation, it looks kind of flat and cheap compared to what I kind of would expect for, again, the same price as a belt that's just an Amazon belt. So yeah, kind of in that. Okay, so I have to do a reset again before we start dun 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 the Sporran discussion. So I don't know if that helped at all, but basically this shoe is going to cost more, whereas this shoe and the J&M shoe I think are pretty close in price. So like I said, if you don't really like the Gilly lace deal, maybe get the, and you're not going to be wearing them constantly every day for work or whatever, and Sven Raphael warning you that they're the worst shoes ever. I think this is an acceptable substitute for casual day wear. Okay, so I realized, well, again, these are not Kilt footwear, but I do have a couple J&M ones here. This one is the double buckle, and then I have there's a single monk strap version. But the reason I'm showing these is to show this is actually the dark brown, so you can get a better look than the other one. And I bought these like right before the pandemic, so I haven't worn them because I've been wearing sneakers and sandals and boots. But so kind of a similar brown to the, again, more budget Sporrans that you see on Amazon with such a clatter. And so I'm kind of going back and forth between shoes and things here. But now, okay, but that ties directly with the Sporrans again, so that's fine. So I had bought this one third or fourth maybe out of my cheap collection budget, however you want to call it. And so it has the pin instead of the snap, because some of the ones with the snaps are very unmanageable compared to this. Does this pop out? And maybe a little bit, but I haven't had a big issue with it. I think I've worn this to a festival once or twice with no significant problem. So maybe it's about the same size as that other one, the Black Harp one. This one doesn't look that much bigger, but it actually is quite a bit bigger once you have it on. The carrying capacity is hopefully a little bit bigger. It's kind of shallower and fatter, but then I wanted this kind of rugged look, look at, whereas, I thought it would this would be my little more refined version, and this would be my more William Wallace or Rob Roy or whatever. But it's not a Rob Roy bag. I haven't seen those in a price range that I would necessarily want to pay. I think for a bag of leather, I could probably find something lying around the house and kind of fashion a bag that would look reasonable. Not that I'm really into sewing my own leather because it's kind of a pain in the butt. Especially if you don't have any kind of, correct tools. But a bag, I mean, the whole point of the idea is that anybody could fashion kind of a primitive bag. And so this is obviously not something I can make myself with, the tooling and all that kind of thing. Whereas I'm pretty sure I can cinch up a bag, make it work. So anyway, so this is the more close to the chocolate brown that everybody's, saying, why don't you carry this color brown? Everything else comes in this color brown. The cheap belts come in this color brown. The shoes that I threw on the floor a minute ago that I can't pick up now again come in this color brown. So yes and no, because like I said, you can find plenty of shoes, like I said, that aren't quite that color brown. I just don't necessarily like them as much as this color brown. But again, if I want to separate myself from a $20 Amazon sporran, I guess that's kind of where it goes. So to go completely off of that into black sporrans, I have them stacked up here for you. I didn't buy this one first. This was one of the ones where they kind of negotiated with me because I already had the other one. But so yes, almost every sporran that USA has is black. This one I like the double chain thing kind of better than the straight chain thing, obviously, because it's less. I really like this stag emblem a lot better than some of the other ones that I've seen or have collected. So there's that. So I really like the way this looks on the hunting sporran, but it only comes in black. And to me, a hunting sporran should be dark brown. Again, it kind of, I don't know, it just seems synonymous with the name hunting that you're going for an earth tone and not a formal black. So this one, I don't remember what that one is. But so this one is the one that I got with the tweed, or with the package. So then when I went to order the tweed package, they only want you to get the semi-dress sporran. And I was like, but I already have the semi-dress sporran. And they said, okay, yeah, because I bought this just to have it, because I kind of wanted something that was a little bit different than my other 50 black sporrans. Because like I said, between Amazon and whoever, I already had like a bunch of black ones, and like I said, I liked this guy better. So they said, okay, fine, we'll swap you out the black one since you already have this one, because I didn't need two of this one. So hooray, now I can get rid of some of my cheap sporrans and have two halfway decent stag ones, so I can finally wear my stag stuff instead of a bunch of Amazon thistle stuff. It's mystery box. I don't remember. Oh, okay, that's that one. I want to save that one. In one of my other slideshows, I had done a picture. This was one. I'll come back to this. This is very similar to some of the new ones they unveiled, except it's oxblood and it has a giant ornament instead of no ornament. And I got this to pretty much wear at Christmas with my other kilt, which is in my previous photos in there somewhere, I think. Just because nobody had a hunting sporran that was like close to my price range. There are hunting sporrans that come in oxblood, but they're like $300, and I was like, okay, no. I think this one was more like 200 or so. I think it was close to that. So it's kind of pricey, but special occasion deal. And so I made an exception, and then the oxblood, I have not kilt shoes in oxblood, but I have some wingtip kind of things, and I have the black ghillie brogues that I've worn with it because it has black trim. So I figured, all right, good enough. The other, okay, so hunting sporran. Again, I didn't want to spend way buku bucks on a black hunting sporran. I was having no luck at all finding a brown hunting sporran. So this one was $40, and it's just a generic hunting sporran that I wish came in brown. So this is not premium. This probably should have been in the previous video, but like I said, until you're ready to, but most people who are buying basic budget kilt accessories aren't necessarily looking for hunting sporrans, so they'll be dismayed to not learn, if they didn't watch this video, that they could have had this one. But I did not buy most of my sporrans from USA Kilts until more recently because, like I said, cheaper options abound, including this one. Which it's black though, so I don't really like it. Even though, as I said in the costume video, I think black goes with more tartans than brown. Oh, this is okay. This is literally just an upgrade. I forget if I showed this one or the other one. I have two of this. These are both technically cheap sporrans. but I think this one costs more because it has the fur on it. I have two of this. One has the leather, one has the fur. Again, the big tacky shamrock, but it matches that other buckle. So, but it looks okay for what it is. It's not. Yeah, I don't know that I would call it necessarily premium. Again, Sporrans having much more of a range than say belts or some of the other things where it's belts, they're all about the same price. Pins, they're super cheap or $50. There's no real in between. Although $50 for a pin, if you're not me and you're not going to collect 30 of them, if you're only going to collect like two, it's not that bad. But then, like I said, if you're not wearing them that much because they're your kind of nice one, it's kind of like, oh, it's kind of sad to let it sit in the closet. But then again, on the other hand, if you're just cleaning out the garage, do you really want to wear a $50 pin? This box, I probably shouldn't even bother with this one, but these are. I think I've decided I'll do a separate dress sporran video. So these are just inexpensive dress sporrans that I think I held this one up in the last video already, and I have a couple of them. This one might have cost a little bit more. This one's kind of nice, but it's rabbit fur, not an expensive fur. So this is maybe more like $50 than 30 though. I don't remember spending a lot on this unless I'm remembering incorrectly. And it has a decent cantle. I might have spent more on this and just forgetting. I know this one has kind of a cheap looking chrome on it, whereas this one has a nicer looking chrome. But again, it's a thistle thing. But you wouldn't wear a belt with this, but you would want a kilt pin that matches. And so at least a thistle, again, easy to match. Whereas a lot of them will come with just the Celtic kind of knot work. Horrible angle with the light. Okay, that's a little better. Even in the premium thing, you're getting similar designs, and actually usually less of these kind of thematic ornaments. If you're spending much more money on the. Sorry, I'll try and make less noise while I talk. If you're spending much more on more quality leather, at least they're putting in less tacky ornamentation. Is what I'm trying to say. So the recent unveiling, they did to finally tie it in. They had a similar one to this, but without any decoration. I didn't think I ever properly really showed the decoration. There we go. That's a decent photo. So it has no decoration. It's just a very plain. And I think I debated buying one of theirs just to see if the pin connector was a better quality. Like I said, I haven't had any issues with this, but I haven't worn this one as much as I wore this a lot when I first got it. And then as soon as I got other Sporrans, I like I said, I threw it in the drawer on purpose so it wouldn't get messed up as quickly. And so I don't know if their version would hold up better. Whereas, like I said, this one is like cleaning the garage. And again, that color, that shade. And so then they unveiled, like I said, one that was similar to this. Again, in principle, except without the big guy here at the top. It's kind of this kind of deal. So I basically already kind of have this color and this style kind of covered. But if you don't like big, huge hunking stags, there's that. So let's go through here. I had written. Okay, I covered that already. Okay, so I had written down the unboxing as they did it in order. So this is sort of my rebuttal for those who lasted this long. This video is going on forever. So the first one was their logo in a laser edition, which I think has curb appeal for a lot of people who like their company. So that's fine. And then they had two versions of that, one with like a pebble grain and one that was a flat. So, or maybe one was a fur, I forget. No, I think one was a pebble grain and one was a flat, if memory serves. Then they had one with a dark fur with a contrast thing. I did kind of like that because, as I showed, most of their contrast fur tends to be on the lighter side. And so if this is a little too bright for your aesthetic, especially it's more of a gray than a brown, because again, it's toning with the black. So I kind of liked the two-tone brown idea myself, especially with that fur, although the one I agreed with Eric about the one about the dark brown flap, maybe. I don't, my notes are not comprehensive here, and I'm not watching the video and doing it, but overall, I don't have any of the cheap ones here that are similar. The big difference with most of the ones they show is instead of just a simple scroll, it's all the studs. They have all those metal. Oh, that hunting sporran had that. Wrong box. More time. Yeah. So why this kind of rivet thing became the default, I don't know. I'm hot and cold on it. I think it looks good in some cases and less good in others. Their Irish sporran has some of that mixed in with like some contrast leather, and I don't like the look of it at all. That's why I got the Stag ones instead of the Irish one. When they were saying, "Hey, do you need a sporran to go?" Everything starts going wrong at the minute mark. Okay. No, I didn't like that particular model at all. So their new ones are mostly, again, meant to tone with the shoe. So if you forgot what the shoe looks like, the problem is they're a little behind the game because I already got basically a nice one for around the same money, and it's not quite the exact color, but it's a little more of a tannish yellowish, a tiny shade, but pretty close, which means I don't like either of them that much. I actually hate this color, but again, that was the shoe, that was the sporran, that was what I decided was worth the $200, and I could sell off a bunch of other ones. Hopefully in the near future, maybe the ones that I haven't sold yet. As far as I know, it's the same company that does their sporrans. It has the little card pocket deal here. It has a suede interior. It has this kind of ruggedy thing that I liked in the other sporran, except still more refined looking than the Clean the Garage deal. It does still have this snap that I'm not crazy about, so I don't know if theirs have the same snap, because this snap is not cooperating now, so perfect timing. But I do think these hold closed better than some of the ones. This one? No. Maybe it's one of theirs. I know I have one. No, this is a snap. So that's just a regular snap too. I know I have one where the snap is a real loose affair. It just barely sticks and stays together only by willpower. And I guess I didn't bring it in here. I don't remember which one it was. And it wasn't one of the cheap ones either, I don't think, if memory serves. It was one of the kind of middle range for me sporrans. But the fact that I'm not seeing it right now means that it's probably not one I use very much. So I guess I won't worry about it. So this kind of snap, not a huge fan. It is, I guess, just the most common style. This has been going on a bit long. Hopefully, it was fairly informative. What else did they did not, however, bring out any brown hunting sporrans. they debuted the one a couple of months ago that's kind of meant to be sort of the now King Charles version that they're calling Duke of Rothesay, which again is pretty similar to this black one. You might be able to find it cheaper elsewhere. I don't know. Not a style that I'm dying to get. It's kind of generic, but it's not terrible. But it's a darker brown. So yes, but then it doesn't match these shoes. We already have these shoes. So I don't know if I'm going to order one of that or not. But I did call when they first came out with that, or not when they first came out with, but when they first announced the new brown run, I called and said, hey, I'd really like to get this guy on the brown one instead of just the black hunting sporran. And obviously they didn't bother to order that. So I don't know if the guys relayed my message or not, or they just didn't want to sink more money when they had already unveiled a brown sporran recently. But I again refuse to pay $300 for when I already have two of the Stag things for another black hunting sporran. It's like, so the one sporran that I want, they don't have still, and the just like the color of shoes that you might want, they don't have. So it's always something like that with this stuff. I mean, the good news about it is this is not my regular daily shoe. This is not a regular daily item per se either. So if you're only wearing these things once in a while, the fact that they're not the perfect color and the perfect, this and that doesn't bother me as much, because again, if I had the money, well, I could probably just get a custom sporran done for even more than $300 or whatever. So like I said, maybe I'll do a more advanced video on hose, shoes, and sporrans. Maybe I'll talk more about dress sporrans that probably should have been in this episode, but this is already pretty long, so I think we'll cut it there for now.